Welcome to Watch Job with Faye. I'm your host, Faye. Today is an episode I have been so excited about, so thank you so much for bearing with me through season 1. We are here at Bray Marina, so bear with us while you've got some sounds in the background because it is a working marina. I've got an incredible guest who I'll introduce you to in a moment. There's a reason for us being here because I'm on a boat called Time on Our Hands, which has been inspired by the episodes of Only Fools and Horses, where Del Boy and Rodney found the lesser watch, which was the Harrison 6. Never actually been found, but there are pictures of it where they actually did make their millions. Time on Our Hands is important because I've got a watch background, and it was important for me when I started this project that I wanted to speak to industry experts and those who shared my passion and enthusiasm for watches. But also I really wanted to have a lifestyle crossover, and that's exactly what today is about. I've got my first luxury lifestyle guest, Libby Brodie. She is a wine connoisseur. She's a wine consultant, a wine writer, a judge, and Libby writes for a weekly column for City AM when she's not quaffing wine with me on the back of a boat, on Instagram on Libby Brodie, and also on YouTube, Libby Brodie Wines. On top of all of those incredible things that this woman does, she also has been named top 20 in the top 100 of influential drink influencers. And that's exactly why here with Libby on Bray Marina, I'm talking to you about wines and nautically themed watches. Libby, thank you so much for joining me on this glorious day in Bray Marina. How are you?
Thank you. Well, how could I be any better? I'm on this beautiful boat on a beautiful day with beautiful company, drinking beautiful wines we're about to, and looking at these watches, which I can't wait to hear more about.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's exciting, and I've been really happy to, what we did was it's not pairing per se, but I have selected 4 nautically themed watches because we're on a boat, and you've kindly made selections that you feel are most appropriate to the descriptions and the backgrounds of them. Firstly, I'd love to know, how did you get into this?
Well, yeah, that's quite an interesting story because I wasn't always in wine, always quite enjoyed it. But I used to be a theatre producer for most of my career. I had a number of productions internationally and in the UK. Unfortunately, that pesky pandemic shut those all down overnight, so I sort of lost everything. And yeah, it wasn't a brilliant moment for me. But I had a 1-year-old and a mortgage, and like many people in lockdown, I took to drink, but I monetized it. So I basically did my WSET exams, that's the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, and I managed to get distinction across all of those, including the blind tasting, which was a bit of a surprise to me because that can be quite a concerning, worrying thing to try and do. But obviously my decades of dedicated drinking have finally paid off. And I thought I was going to be, because of my events and theatre background, I thought I was going to be sort of someone who would set up wines for events and deliver them. And the guy who made my website told me I had to write a blog to get people to find me, something to Google spiders. I'm not very technical, something like that. And I basically said I'd never written anything before. So I started writing this blog. First, I think only my mother read it, as they do. But it got picked up by City AM and I got made their wine columnist. And I also at the same time I was creating these skits with a friend of mine who was an ex-professional rugby player in my living room. Didn't think anyone would actually watch them. We called ourselves Boozy and the Beast because he's this great big hairy guy. And it turned out that people were watching it. So Joe Marler, who's a rugby player, played for England. He invited me on his podcast. There's an episode on wine, that's me. And then I was asked to film another series with Andrew Sheridan in the Rhone. And it all just really took off. So March 2020, I sort of lost everything that I'd worked for is in theatre. But by January 2021, I had launched Bacchus and Brodie, my wine consultancy, and by that March I had a newspaper column. So it's been an exciting few years. It's been a real pivot.
So firstly, congratulations, because that is quite a pivot, and for you to take those skills from you wouldn't necessarily associate the two backgrounds, but I'm sure they've been transferable skills. And like you said, your dedication to wine drinking over the years.
Yes. When a passion comes to light like that. But yeah, I think actually having that theatre background, storytelling, being able to think outside the box, being able to, the show must go on. It should be a tattoo I should get one day. I think that's really important when coming into an industry. And I don't write or present for wine people in the trade. There's enough of people who do that. I write and present for consumers, for people like me, you, most people out there who just want to know what goes with what, who want to know the story behind a wine. And I want to bring that to life for people and have them enjoy it. This is a pleasurable product. It should be enjoyed.
It's a wonderful product. And I love that, the storytelling, because that's largely what I wanted to do. And that for me, a watch doesn't just tell the time, it does tell a story. So perhaps we could start with one of the watches that I have brought here, not because I want to talk about the watch, but because I'd love to start introducing the wines. There's I want to drink. But I've selected. So what I wanted to do was start with a watch that it's a brand that was 1889 was when it was first founded in Switzerland, and it's a brand called Doxa. So they're not the best known brand, but they have the credibility and the longevity as many watch brands in the industry. In fact, they're one of the longer running ones. But they have a strong association with dive watches, which is specifically why I chose the Doxa today. So this is a 39mm case. I'm going to be a little bit technical, but I don't want to be too technical because it's just the one thing that's really interesting about this watch and many others is the bracelet. It's called Beads of Rice. It's not the sexiest name, however, if you hear the name Beads of Rice, only Doxa have this design. And the reason bracelets are just as important as the watch for many brands is because it does give it's a signifier, and it can identify. So if you're sitting somewhere and you can't see the watch face itself on someone's wrist, I can automatically tell, and many people sort of who have an interest in watches can automatically tell what the brand is. There are several that are incredibly iconic, but this one is called Beads of Rice. So this is the sub 200T. It can dive down to 200 meters. It says it in the name. I've chosen the Tiffany blue dial, which has been massively on trend over the past couple of years. This isn't their best seller. I chose this one to have a bit of variety across some of the other watches that we're going to be discussing. But Doxa is a brand that's got a huge following. Particularly, it's got a big cult following. It's a great barrier to entry, legitimate diving watch. So it comes in at just under £1,500 currently. But they have very identifiable features. It's an automatic watch, and suitable should you wish to take a little swim. I'm not suggesting you do so here, but let me pass it over to you.
Please. It's beautiful. I'm quite nervous holding these. I am quite clumsy, I'm just going to warn you, but I won't. I'll look after this watch.
Maybe don't stand up.
I won't. Gosh, I love that colour. And
the Tiffany blue is very on trend at the moment. There's a lot of brands that are doing it. This was this one was introduced to their collection, but they have lots of bright colours, and I'll talk about colours in a minute when we talk about our next watch, because there's a real relevance to colour elements and tones, particularly on diving watches. I'd love to know what wine you have brought with you to pair with my entry-level Doxa.
Okay, well, firstly, I went with the nautical theme. So this particular brand, this company is Sea Change. I love them. I've been supportive of them since they first started out. I'm just going to open this. I love the sound as well. Ooh. Now, technically, you're meant to not really make that popping sound. Apparently, it's not bad etiquette, but also boring. Who doesn't love that sound? So I'll just pour a glass for you here. So Sea Change, they support ocean conservation, marine conservation with all of their wines, and they're also excellent wines as well. And they limit their packaging. You can see there's no foil at the top here because you don't actually really need it. It's just used for branding now, and it's all made from great waste labels as well. Also, you mentioned the colour, and I thought that their labels, I know you shouldn't judge a wine on the label, but we'll do a bit, particularly when it's a rosé, everyone buys with their eyes. You've got this lovely sort of colourful, bright label. Now, this is a rosé Prosecco. You're talking about people finding things popular. Obviously, the UK loves Prosecco. I think we're the biggest export market for it. And we also, statistically, will pay a bit more for a pink drink. But Prosecco rosé Prosecco was only legally allowed to be created in 2020 because different wine areas have different rules of what they will allow to be called certain wines. And only in 2020 was the rosé given the rights to exist. And what they do is they make the Prosecco with the Glera grape, and then they add in a little bit of still, up to 15% max, still Pinot Noir, just to colour and maybe give some of those red berry. You haven't even had a drink.
You haven't had a drink yet.
It's why my body's going, what the heck's wrong? Imparts those flavours as well. So anyone who has muddled before red and white wine as a bit of a joke, or when they're in their youth and have said, I created rosé, you are correct, because this is actually how most champagne houses and Proseccos are made when they are rosé. They add in some still red wine to that. And it's a really beautiful sparkling wine. It's tank method. Sparkling wines are generally made in two different ways. This is the only tank method. Oh, tank, diving tank. Just made that link for me. I'm quite enjoying that. Bit of a dad joke. I wish I'd thought but that was good. So it's the only tank method sparkling that we're having today. All Proseccos are made through the Charmat or tank method, where basically the yeast eats all the sugars in that grape juice and they create the alcohol. And then the yeast die. And we call them the lees rather than the dead yeast cells because it sounds nicer. So in Prosecco, that all happens in a tank and then the yeast gets filtered straight out, which helps preserve these lovely, fresh, fruity flavours. Whereas in wines like Champagne, South Africa's Cap Classique, most English sparkling wines, and Cava, it's the traditional method, which means that process happens in the bottle generally. And so the wine rests on the lees and it gives these sort of nutty, brioche, toasty, rounder notes. That's all the two main differences. But here, cheers.
Cheers. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to try this and then I've got lots of questions if I may. Well, that's lovely.
It's elegant, it's light, it's very sort of fresh, fruity. That's what they really want to promote in Prosecco. It's not too sweet. Lots of people have this idea that Prosecco is a sweet wine.
I find Prosecco very sweet often.
That can happen, but actually it's not the style they particularly enjoy in Italy itself. It comes from the Veneto region, north of Italy, and actually when you go there and have the Proseccos there, they're actually much drier than sweet. But in the UK there has been a preference.
I was going to say, is it because do they cater to the palate of a British consumer?
They do quite often.
Okay.
But actually consumer palates are changing and people are preferring drier, more linear, more lighter styles. And this is only 10.5% alcohol, which is on the lower side for wine, which means it's a great one to have as our first glass of the day.
Cheers to that. You were talking about the packaging. When you said, is sustainability quite a big piece in the wine industry then? And how are they making changes? It's about packaging. Is there other methods, or are there any significant shifts in how things are being produced to be able to support that?
Absolutely. I think across the board in the world now, particularly when it comes to luxury or what consumers are after, I think people are much more aware of the impact that we're all having on the planet. Sustainability is a key word in the wine industry for all levels of winemaking, from entry level to absolute top luxury. There are different ways you can do this. So you've got organic or biodynamic farming. Organic or biodynamic wines, they obviously don't use pesticides or chemicals in the actual farming itself. And then you've got things like the packaging, so reduction, lighter weight bottles, reduction of the foil, using grape waste to create the labels, all of these things.
I love that grape waste. That's very authentic.
Very authentic. Let's not create let's take all the waste and reuse it. And that's things that, I mean, those sort of things are really being pushed by all winemakers. It really is now a case less of it's exceptional if you are sustainable and more like if you're not being sustainable, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's quite similar in the direction. Well, I think the watch industry is a little bit further behind. However, brands are making strides in their own way. Not everybody is doing the same thing. It started with packaging, so that was what actually caught my attention when you were talking about the foil on the top. So a lot of it is packaging and reducing the waste down that way. And then there are so many different brands who have different stories. So some brands, it might be the dial is made out of recycled fishnets, and particularly brands that have, again, more nautically themed backgrounds. Others are about how they manufacture their products. So it's not all about sort of the packaging, etc. They're all looking at different ways. At the minute, there are different levels, but it is a big topic of conversation in the industry. I think as you said, it's relevant to be everywhere. But okay,
good pairing.
Lovely pairing. Colour wise, they go as well.
I know they would them beautifully.
I didn't see
them together.
Yeah, please, because also it brings out. I mean, I know this is all
with a starfish.
Absolutely. So we'll get some pictures of that later. But what
colourful, fun, but still elegant.
And what does this price? What's the approximate price?
Sea change online currently. This is about £13.99, or mix 6 with other wines. They do about £11.99. So it's a nice level for a premium Prosecco, but it is not too expensive. It's a good level.
I now would definitely buy that because I'm not a Prosecco fan. Purely because of what we said, I find it too sweet. My natural go-to at an entry price point would be Cava. or a Cremant, or a Cremant or Champagne. So if I was to see that now, particularly in the summer, I 100% would
dive in.
yeah.
So
All right, now we're gonna see how many diving and watch puns we can get in. May I introduce the next watch?
Please.
Wonderful. So I have chosen a Breitling SuperOcean. Breitling have a heritage of adventure, and they're traditionally known for their aviation. However, they have been making strides in the nautical world. They have really strong key pillars, and this is part of their, as it says, the name gives it away. It is part of one of their nautically themed. It's not a diver's watch per se. However, you can dive with it up to 300 meters. Now, I've specifically chosen the orange version. So this is a 37mm case size. I've tried to choose mid-size watches. I didn't want to choose ladies' watches. I didn't want to choose gents' watches because the industry itself is moving away from gender-specific products, which I think is something.
Really
yeah, it's something we've seen in the last few years, and there is still definite ladies' watches that are created, designed, but that doesn't mean only women only can wear them, because taste is different for everybody. However, the brands have realised that it should not necessarily be defined by a shrink it and pink it, put on some diamonds, and then there you go. It's a lady.
Great line, shrink it and pink it.
I'd love to say it was mine. It is an industry term. So when brands do come up with aim specifically for unisex pieces, they've got to take a lot more into consideration, in that they want clearly a wider audience to be wearing it, or it to appeal to. So I'm not saying it's harder to be more generic, but they've just got to think about a lot more in terms of its case size, and even things down to, if it's a smaller version of a current piece, the dimensions might not work quite as well. So I think Breitling do an incredible job about doing mid-size pieces. This is a 36mm case size, and this is great for all. I would say it's a great surf watch. It's a great sort of hanging out at the beach bar type thing. The reason I've chosen the orange is it's really relevant for divers watches. And if you look at divers watches, the Doxa that I introduced before, actually their bestseller was in the orange. And I wanted to bring this version today, and the reason being is it's because it's so contrasting against the blue in the water. It's one of you need legitimately to be able to see the dial for safety reasons and for measuring your air and tanks, which you referenced earlier. See, I'm learning. I knew I wanted this to be an education piece. So this watch is bold. It is confident. It is Breitling. It's an automatic watch. Power reserve is under 40 hours, I think, on this one. So what that means is you can wear it and it keeps the movement. But if you were to take it off and put it by your bedside, I think it's 38 hours, this piece, if I've got that correct. Then you don't need to wind it or move it for that period of time. So the power reserve on watches is a big part of our conversation. How long can you keep a bottle of bubbles in the fridge before they go flat? That's the power reserve I want to know about.
That's an important
yeah. So that'd be
it's never come up for me.
I've never.
What do you mean? Like, you keep it in the fridge after it's open? So I do have a lot of sparkling stoppers, and they will probably, if you have a sparkling stopper, it generally keeps it in there for, I don't know, 2 to 3 days. The spoon thing is a myth. Don't do the spoon thing. People put a spoon in the top of their sparkling wine. I saw my kids' godparents, who have known me for years, I went around the other day, sorry guys, I've just outed you, put a spoon in. I was like, what are you doing? That is a myth. It does not work. The sparkling stoppers work, or Caravan, if you love your gadgets. They are quite expensive, but they have just launched a sparkling Caravan, which means you can get your really fancy wines. Little needle goes in there, puts gas into the wine to keep it fizzy for, I mean, they say years. And you can pour a little glass out and keep it sparkling, which is, I've never tried it for that long myself. I have tried the sparkling Caravan immediately, and it does work really well. But I would say a sparkling stopper. Get one of those from Amazon.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. I'd like to pass this over to you, and then you can
boldness as well in the colour, because I knew that recently sort of quiet luxury was a thing, but the fact that we've got these bold, bright colours on these really quite amazing, gorgeous watches, that seems to be a bit of a point of difference.
This is another brand where you can look at it and immediately identify that it's a Breitling. They are bold and confident in their design.
I love it.
And I think also because when Doxa, it's known as a diving watch, they were the one that did the research and realized that orange was one of the stronger colors to be able to see when you're actually diving. Red and orange actually lose its visibility the quickest underwater. And blue is the last color that you can see, but due to the contrast, it works best when you're diving. So you need it to be able to, sorry to repeat myself, for safety reasons.
That is fascinating. I also like the fact that you were talking about gender not being so much a thing. That's very similar to wine, because as you were saying, it's subjective. You don't really know what styles people are going to want to wear. Same in wine. Wine is subjective. It's a pleasure. Everyone has their own palate, their own taste. There is no right or wrong, and there really isn't. So it's whatever you actually enjoy. And the terms we use when describing wine, they used to be very like, this is a masculine wine, this is a feminine wine, and now those are really not done anymore. Those are not woke. Not that I'm the most woke person in the world. I'm not. But you're not really meant to use those terms anymore to describe wine. But I think I've got the perfect wine for this. I'm chuffed with my pairing on this one.
I can't wait to try this. Why did you choose it?
Bold and confident.
Wonderful.
Let's go for Sparklehorse.
I like the bottle.
I mean, it's very bold. And if you want to talk about confidence, so this is by a winemaker called Ken Forrester in South Africa. He is a very confident chap. I think he may have named himself this, but he is known as the king of Chenin. Chenin Blanc being the biggest grapes planted in South Africa from their brandy making days. They've got a lot of these old vine Chenins, and the older a vine, the more concentrated and amazing people say the flavour of the wine is, because an old vine produces fewer grapes. All those fruit and flavours, those juices, those sugars are concentrated in fewer grapes, and they create really complex, amazing wine. So South Africa has incredible Chenin Blanc. Ken Forrester is the self-proclaimed king of Chenin. And this is a traditional method, so same as champagne or cava or most English sparkling wines, traditional method sparkling made from Chenin. I'm gonna open it. And so this has also been kept on the lees. We talked about those dead yeast cells in the bottle for 20 months. And I think, champagne has to be, by law, 15 months. Oh, wow. That's a bit of a surprise. See, bold, Ken, bold. So that has to be about 15 months in champagne. This is 20 months. And the longer you age it on the lees or at all, the more it costs, because you're using that storage time, you're using that care time. So if a wine is aged for longer on the lees, a sparkling wine, then that is generally going to be a little bit more expensive and premium out of necessity. So here we have 20 months on the lees, 100% Chenin Blanc, sparkling wine from South Africa. And also I thought that South Africa was quite good for a sporty kind of vibe. South Africa, they love their sports there. Cheers. Cheers.
I'm looking forward to trying this one.
So it's a far richer.
Oh gosh, that's lovely.
Sunshine in there. That you got that. So the sunshine ripens the grapes. And this is really good if you want to know the kind of wine that you might be drawn to. If you prefer a more mineral, linear, cooler, sort of a crisper style, then look for cool climate wines. If you like more fruit, typically a bit more booze, something a bit richer, look for hotter or sunnier countries. Now that's a generalization, and anyone in wine will say, as soon as you say generalization, there's going to be 5 people who disprove it. So it's a sweeping generalization that I'm making there. But you can taste the sunshine, bringing that fruit flavor to the fore, bringing that real ripeness and roundness to it, as does the traditional method. And it's vibrant, and it's bold, and it's fun.
I mean, it's exactly like the Breitling then, and it does sound like it is perfect for recreational water sports that go with the watch, which is what Breitling do with their SuperOcean collection.
I'd also say, sorry if I get, South Africa is really big on sustainability, and you'll get these labels. I'm not sure if you guys can see.
Oh, good, more education.
But you get these labels here about their sustainability, and most South African wines have this. It's a real push that the country is making. It's one of my favourite countries in the world for wine, and they're also responsible for 75% of the world's fair trade wine.
So for the audience that are listening and can't see that label, what should they be looking for?
Integrity and sustainability certified, and it's sort of a green and white label, generally on the neck of the bottle with South African.
And that's globally recognised and encouraged.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Oh, wonderful. This you've upped the game on this one, haven't you?
Right. Oh,
Is it?
wait. Afternoon, guys.
That's lovely. Yeah, that, because it's very quaffable on the back of a boat, isn't it? I'm not just to point out the obvious, but the way your adjectives and how you've described it, there's a boldness to it without it being too hefty, and it's still really light.
It's bold but not brash.
Yes, absolutely. You can tell that it's a level up. What price point will we be looking at here?
This is going to be around the upper 20s.
Okay, so this is a really nice gift if I was going somewhere and I wanted to introduce something to somebody, like I was going to a barbecue or something along those lines. Don't want to spend too much money, or because that's my challenge I have is I buy the same wines, champagnes repeatedly because I know what I'm getting, and I'm quite nervous about trying other bottles, other brands, other. Do you call them specifically vineyards or houses, or as manufacturers for
Probably houses or producers.
Okay, so having something like that, and if I'm honest, I would potentially see that bottle in the supermarket and go, nearly 30 quid, looks a bit gimmicky. I don't know. However, it's just changed my mind completely.
Hamilton Russell is a fantastic South African producer, and the owner of which said to me once, "Wine is the pursuit of the naturally promiscuous." And I went, "Excuse me?" And he said, because even if you find a fantastic wine, you don't fill your cellar with just that wine. And it's true. You get curious. You start trying new things. I'll go to a wine bar and a sommelier and I'll say, "Do you have anything new? Do you have anything to surprise me?" Like, you can get a little taster. This is a very good tip, actually. I'm just giving you another tip here. If you ever go to a restaurant or bar, before you order your wine, if there's any of those wines that are served by the glass, they have those bottles open anyway. So you can ask for a taste, and say, "Can I just try a little bit?" before you order a glass. They will generally always give you a little taster, rather than taking a risk. See if you can try it first.
So perhaps I should seek out restaurants that have many bottles that serve by the glass, and then go through
Just try little sips of it all. No need for a glass at all by the end of it.
No, that's wonderful. Okay, so this is a really lovely recommendation. Thank you so much. I'm going to take one more sip before we move on to our third watch. So number 3 out of the four watches that we're trying and the wines we're pairing. You might have heard of a brand called Rolex.
Vaguely.
I'm not sure. So I've chosen a Rolex Yacht-Master in keeping with the nautical theme. This is a smaller case size. It is a 37mm Rolex. It's Releasium is the material they call it. Rolex are really good at creating and patterning their own material. So what that means is part steel and part platinum. So that's on the bezel. The Yacht-Master is one of the lesser known diver watches. So they've got the Submariner, which is a huge piece for them, massive success. But this is a piece for collectors that want something slightly more ubiquitous. So they don't want the same exposure and perhaps ostentatiety that you would get. It's a Rolex through and through, but it's not the one that's the most known within their collection. It's also, this is a 37mm case size, it's also the Yacht-Master collection is the only collection that have 4 different case sizes within it. Not very interesting necessarily, however, it is when, as a watch buyer, and you're doing the selections and the case sizes, that was sort of quite interesting because they don't tend to do that across their professional collections. Their professional collections are either they're known, they sit in their lane, so they're sports watches, they're sort of nautically themed watches. They've got their chronographs for driving effectively, and the Yacht-Master is a collection that has been, I think, since 1905. No, the brand's from 1905. So the brand's from 1905, slightly younger than the Doxa and the Breitling that we saw. Breitling was actually a few years older, only 4 years older than the Doxa, actually, both in the late 1800s. 1905, Rolex created in the UK. You look surprised. And then Hans Wilsdorf took it to Switzerland. So this is more of it's not so much a diving watch. It is, you can wear it underwater, of course, because all Rolex Oysters are. So the name actually Rolex Oyster is largely because they're all waterproof. So it's named after the crustacean. The crustacean itself, which goes so well with champagne. That's the one thing we miss. It's the one thing we miss, Libby, when having this conversation. Note to self, must do better. So I wanted to introduce this slightly smaller case size. This is still part of their current collection. It's a great size for ladies and gents if a gent wants a slightly smaller watch. It's not as ostentatious as some of the other pieces. Not that Rolex is actually always known for
Ostentation?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I've had two glasses of champagne so far, or sparkling wine, and I can't find my words. But this one is slightly more subtle. I love the Yacht-Master in this case size. It's got a stunning grey dial. And do you remember the Tiffany blue that we saw on the Doxa? Yeah. It's not the same blue, however, it's quite similar in that. Where
it's really subtle.
Yeah, it is. They've done a great job with that. Rarely is anything left to chance with the brand, if I'm honest. But I felt this was a good example of a nautically themed watch, and it's got a sort of unidirectional rotating bezel, so it's for navigation. So the others are more diving, and this is for, let's say, regattas, or when you're out on your boat and you're looking for navigation. So all of the watches I've chosen are largely, there's a functionality to them, and there's no gimmick to it. It's if you're into your yachting, this is exactly the watch that you would want to be wearing, or your boat.
I'd like to be into yachting. I feel like I could do yachting.
I think it suits you. I think you're on brand. Yeah. I'm really keen to see what you're going to introduce me to, because this brand is special. When we first chatted, you said, "Oh, but I don't know anything about," and I wanted to talk to you about this episode. Like, but I don't know anything about watches. I was like, well, no, but I don't know anything about wines, and I'd love this to be sort of an education piece. So we were able to talk through sort of price points and working our way through the various industries. And I couldn't do it without a Rolex. So I was really pleased, but I also didn't want to go with the obvious option. And this was one that I wanted to, particularly as I was aiming for more unisex pieces. So that's the Yacht-Master 37, and it comes in at £10,000 on the nose at the moment.
Now, much more nervous holding it.
No, you're fine. They're robust, and they all are. You're fine. I mean, don't throw it overboard.
What goes better with oysters than champagne? So we're going for, it's another traditional method, because all champagne is. And here, because, I mean, Rolex is such a name that everyone knows, and it is that sort of timeless elegance that it comes associated with. So I'm pairing it with Ruinart. Now, Ruinart is actually the oldest champagne house in the world. They are the original, they are the OGs of champagne, and they were founded in 1729. And they are known, again, so I would say I don't know a lot about watches, but I know about I've heard of Rolex. I would know a Rolex. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them. And I feel that Ruinart is just as distinctive because of this bottle shape, which is totally unique to them. You've got this, oh, there you go. You've got this totally unique shape here, that roundness to it. Bit annoying for your old wine fridge, I have to say, but a really gorgeous shape. And I have actually gone for a petite half bottle of this, which I would love to say is because that watch is,
we call it mid-size.
Mid-size, but in reality it's budget-led, because being the oldest champagne house, they're known obviously for being very premium and very desired, but not ostentatious. They're not one of the big blingy houses out there. They're known for their history and their craft. They're generally Chardonnay-led. So champagne traditionally is made from a blend or a single grape between of Pinot Meunier, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And if you see any champagne saying Blanc de Blanc, that's white of white. So it's the champagne made of the white grape, and the only white grape is Chardonnay. So this is 100% Chardonnay. If you see Blanc de Noir, it's going to be made from either a blend of Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier, or both of those two together. Just a little heads up. And this is why it slightly bugs me, a little bit of a soapbox moment here, when people say, oh, I don't like Chardonnay. And I'm going, well, do you like champagne or Chablis or Pouilly, or white Burgundy? All of those are the Chardonnay grape, because it's such a versatile grape. And here it's created with real refined elegance, and a vintage champagne has to be on the lees, those yeast cells again, for a minimum of 3 years. And this is non-vintage, and yet they've still aged it for 3 years on the lees to give it. It's got incredible refinement because of that Chardonnay, but it's also got a lovely depth to it. So very important. Let me talk, I was ungenerous with your pour there. Don't fire me.
No, not at all. Would you recommend? I've got so many questions, and I think sounds like a really good pairing. The adjectives you used in terms of the understated, traditional, authentic, the credibility behind it works really well if you're wearing a line with a Rolex. Cheers. We are drinking these because we are on a boat and safety first. Equally, we have had an accident with one of my Frank Muller champagne flutes.
We won't name names.
How important, I'm going to try this first, but while I'm drinking it, how important is it to enjoy champagne and the glassware?
People can become glassware zealots. I'm not, because I'm wine without snobbery, so however you want to enjoy your wine, you enjoy it. But psychologically, actually, glassware does have a real impact. You'll find that they've done various tests where if you're serving in a heavier glass, not just wine, any drink, you think it's richer and deeper and all of these things, and if it's lighter, then you kind of feel the acidity and the lightness more. The champagne glass has gone through a number of different trends. You started with the coupe, like this, when champagne sort of came on the scene originally in the 1920s, and that was because champagne actually was a very different drink. That then became unfashionable because all the bubbles escape really quickly. There's a large surface area. It looks glamorous. I love a coupe. I love a vintage coupe. But you just have to drink quicker, quite frankly, if you're worried about the bubbles dissipating. So then it went into the flute, and that was fashionable for quite a long time, because that helps keep the bubbles for longer, because you've got this now. But then those became unfashionable because, although good for the lighter styles of champagne or Prosecco, you actually don't get a lot of the aromas coming out, or as much as you could, and most of what you taste is actually what you smell. So the aroma of wine and taking that sniff is actually very important. That's why people do the It's not just because we're pretentious. It's actually people are doing that to get as much as they can from the experience. And so that's why right now, if you go to fancy restaurants or in people's homes, champagne is being served in tulip shapes, which keep that beading, that keep that bubbles coming up, but also are slightly wider at the top to allow you to get all the aroma. Or if you don't have that, a white wine glass. Generally at home, particularly if I'm having an aged or a premium champagne, I'd have it from a white wine glass.
Okay, this is delicious. And this is the first champagne we're trying, because you bought a Prosecco and then a sparkling
Cap Classique from South Africa. So same method, less time on the lees, different grapes. So champagne can only be made by those,
in the Champagne region.
By those, in the Champagne region. Side note, and you can edit this out, no, Donald Trump, you are not helping the champagne industry of America, because it doesn't exist. Champagne is only.
I'm not editing anything out. That's
in champagne. But yeah, so that's sort of a rule. It can only be called champagne if it's made in Champagne, and also with the aging on the lees and the various rules they have. Whereas in South Africa and other regions, you can use different grapes.
That is delicious.
Isn't it good? Classy.
Well, but again, so what I wanted to say is, whilst it's called an oyster perpetual for all of our, the bracelet I was talking about with the Doxa, with the beads of rice, this is an oyster bracelet, and it is the biggest icon in the industry, pretty much up there in terms of, if you see that on, Rolex largely do 4 bracelets. The oyster bracelet is the one that is one of the ones that is known for, and is largely on their professional models. Nobody has asked for my opinion. I'm going to give it. I think it should only be on an oyster. They introduced it a few years ago. Actually, the original was on the GMT, was on the Jubilee. I don't think a professional model should be on anything other than an oyster bracelet. The brand's never going to speak to me again.
You heard it here,
yeah.
This next
So, that's lovely, thank you. Please do tell me, and don't ever bring me half a bottle of champagne again, please, Libby. But educate me in the price point here.
So this half bottle is around £65. Yeah.
I mean, it's my budget, so I didn't read your small print. Okay, but it's lovely.
Actually, it is a better deal to get a whole bottle, because that retails at about £100.
Okay.
But with the budget, this little dainty, delicate half bottle, perfect handbag size, perfect. And yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for introducing me to that as well. So that's for me, if I'm buying champagne for home, or particularly for a guest or something, that would be a very special occasion wine for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's the oldest champagne house. It's absolute elegance. It's obviously more premium price-wise. banging.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I have tried it before. I'm new to the other two. It's not because I only drink elite champagne, but I'm familiar with the label. However, I didn't know any of the history of it, so thank you very much. The Ruinart was delicious. Thank you for that, and I think it was really well paired with the Oyster Yacht-Master. We have final pieces from your wine selection and my watch selection. I'm going to launch in immediately with a brand that needs no introduction. It's a Patek Nautilus. So it's an icon for the brand. I use that a lot and I feel it doesn't do it justice, but the Nautilus collection from Patek is one of the most sought after. The piece I've got today has been discontinued, and it's probably not the watch that everybody thinks I'm going to bring along as a discontinued Nautilus, because it caused a frenzy. There are clients still crying. There are clients still crying that they can no longer get their hand on a 5711. And I've got a mid-size piece that was discontinued in 2006. It was launched in 1981, so it's been out of production as long as it was in production. The Nautilus theme is, as you would imagine, seafaring. It's got it in the name. The design nodes on the Nautilus, they've got stripes across, sort of horizontally across the dial. The Patek is the upper end, one of the most desirable watch brands in the industry. Low production. They are quiet, they are confident, they are elegant. The demand massively outweighs the supply. And it's one of those watches that's when on somebody's wrist, if they're wearing it, there's a kind of a gentle nod. People do respond that way to Rolex, but they have much bigger production. So with Patek, it's just harder to get. It's harder to get, and there is actually quite a challenge in terms of buying one as well. You've got to be on certain waiting lists. You've got to be almost like not recommended by the brand. Certainly not recommended by the brand. You've got to have the approval of the retailer to know that it's not necessarily going to go on and be flipped. So what I have is a 3800 originally launched in 1981. It's a mid-size, also it's 37mm or 36.5, and the Nautilus no longer comes in steel, which is a really, really relevant point to the conversation, because the Nautilus is their most high demand, desired collection. You can still get a couple of the Nautilus in precious metal, and you can get some complications, which that's a whole other episode. I won't. They're called complications for a reason in terms of the functionality and what they bring to the table. But if you're a collector, this is going to be very sought after, and I've never seen one, and I'm not likely to see one again. However, I thought it was what I did, I dug deep, Libby. I dug deep to speak to as many people as I could. I was talking about this episode, and then suddenly a friend said, "Any chance you want to use my watch?" I was like, "Yes, I do. Thank you very much." So it's a beautiful piece, and I was talking earlier about, so the jumbo for the Patek is well known, and the 5711, so that's a 40mm case size, and this is, it was 37mm when it came out. So I'd like you actually to put it on, because I think it look incredible on your wrist. And good, great. It's like, it's fine. I've got security everywhere.
To put it on. I'm not a sommelier. I'm clumsy.
It's yeah.
I'm a wine consultant. We can be clumsy.
Oh, you can be brash and just there you go. And I'll be wearing that all the way home. Sorry, I don't want to reach across. Well, why don't you just hold it underneath your wrist and just see, because I think that would look great. It looks great against your outfit. Seafaring.
I love this for me.
Yeah. I love this for you. I do too. However, you're not having it. I've got to go back to its owner. I'm really grateful.
Like your friend who's given you this watch for the day?
Yes.
I think she got me more.
Yeah. Well, you bought me half. You bought me half a bottle of champagne.
She'll never let that go.
So no, she won't. So look. I was really grateful. I was really grateful to be able to talk about this piece. All of the others that we've spoken about today are all current collection, and you can purchase for the brands and really lean into the topic that we're talking about. But this piece, it was 2 days ago. Somebody said, "Oh, do you want to would you like to talk about this? So I'm really grateful. And I wanted to show it to you because I know with the pairing that you bought, I was actually going to talk about a Patek Aquanaut, so which is, again, nautically themed, fun, fresh. And that was a ladies model in particular with diamonds, which would have gone great with your outfit. Another episode perhaps. However, this came about, and it's one of those, again, the Nautilus, the design nodes speak to the brand. This is another one where the bracelet, again, at 50 paces, you know exactly what it is. You don't have to see the case shape, which is Gerald Genter. So Gerald Genter was a key designer, fundamental in our industry and our background in the Swiss watch design. So it's a Gerald Genter design, and the point of this was this mid-size, so it's known as a mid-size as well, that it became a full collection because they had two other case sizes. So there's a lot around this watch. You can't buy it, and sadly you can't buy any steel Nautilus anymore because Patek have decided to discontinue the steel pieces. However, this was one of the earlier pieces that is quite rare. So it was really special, and I'm very grateful to be able to talk you through it. And I would love to know what you feel is appropriate to match with a Patek Nautilus.
Well, that is an incredibly special watch that you might have to check. I don't run away with at the end of the day. And I am pairing it with an incredibly special wine. This is incredibly special for a number of reasons. Firstly, the house, Billecart-Salmon. It's personally special to me because it's actually the house that got me into wine, full stop. In my early 20s, I didn't come from a wine background, a boyfriend who I think was trying to be fancy took me to a wine tasting, and I tried what they are best known for, I would say, is their Billecart-Salmon Rosé. Tried a glass of that, and I remember saying out loud, wow, that's so much better than Smirnoff Ice, which was at the time my drink of choice. I did actually say that to Matthew Roland Billecart, who was the 7th generation son of the house, over lunch. Now I'm in wine, and he did tell me he was going to put that on a press release, but I'm yet to see it, Matthew.
Should we call him?
We should call him. Like, where's my better than Smirnoff Ice?
Still referencing, oh gosh, there's that sound again.
So this is special for a number of reasons. I would say that Billecart-Salmon is one of those houses that everyone has a wonderful memory about. When I got into wine, everyone in wine seems to have respect for this brand, this producer. Lots of people, they like this, they don't like that. You can have arguments, you can be controversial about a bunch of stuff. But for some reason, this house, just everyone seems to have a wonderful memory surrounding it, a wonderful wine that they've had, a wonderful moment they've shared. They are a very respected and renowned house. You'll find a Billecart-Salmon, generally their rosé, to be honest, on many a wine list in London, definitely, and elsewhere. But they still manage to retain this incredible respect for their quality, for their vision, for the wines that they create. And this one is, I would say, incredibly unique, not often seen out and about. You will see here, for a start, the label is wood, which is not often seen in wine, generally. This particular cuvée is called Le Sous Bois. And I'm sorry if I've said that incorrectly, but I don't speak French very well. But this has actually been aged. This is very unusual. It has been vinified, fermented, and then aged in oak barrels. So this is an entirely different style of champagne to the one we've just had. That one was Chardonnay and kept light and fresh and very sort of ethereal. This is all the three grapes, that Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, Chardonnay. Again, Chardonnay is, I believe, the dominant grape in this blend, but this has been aged for 5 to 7 years. I think this particular bottle is 5 years in oak. And what oak does, it imparts both oxygen, which helps that wine develop. Oxygen in a grand scale is death for wine, but a little bit in that oak barrel, it makes it develop, and it gives it sort of, can do spice notes, baking spices. The oak wood can also give it sort of cedar wood spice notes, and it gives, having that sort of development on the leaves that long, has brioche, shortbread, toasty notes. It could have some sort of Marmite in it. I mean, you're laughing.
I am, because you're just talking about breakfast goods now, right? But however,
well, I'd have a bottle of this for breakfast any day. But it'll also have probably some dried fruits. I'm just guessing at this point, but it's a rich champagne. Like before, the Ruinart was sort of elegant, ethereal, fine. This is a elegant still, but rich, developed, and entirely unique. To vinify a champagne in oak wood barrels, to have the wood on the label, It's a distinctive, it's a point of difference. It's distinctive, it's elegant, it's original, and it's a house that means a lot to a lot of people, I would say.
So there are some huge parallels here and comparisons between Patek Philippe and this house. I love the word you use, respect. That's exactly how people, how in our industry and in our luxury segment, reviews a Patek. So I think this is an incredible pairing. I'm going to try this now. It's the only thing that's going to shut me up.
I mean, there's a real generosity, this wine. It's generous, it's rounded, it's rich. You've still got that seam of acidity running through. You do drool, you know, you got that seam of acidity running through to keep it balanced. Yeah,
it does.
exactly.
So what is that called in your world?
It is the acidity that makes you do it in a great way, not one for dates. You'll look weird. But if you want to find out if a wine is acidic, because sometimes they're so balanced with fruit, you won't know.
If they're buying that on a date, I'm fine. I don't care how.
You're like, whatever. Yeah. We're not going to. You're like, I'm in. You take a sip, you swallow, you keep your mouth closed, and then you tip your head forward. And the more you drool into the front of your mouth after you swallowed, and keep your mouth closed. The more you drool into the front of your mouth, it does look a bit like you're bowing to someone, which is why I wouldn't do it on a date. That's more acidic the wine is for you, and that's really good to know, because if a wine is acidic, it's going to be great with something that is acidic, like lemon juice over oysters, for example, but also something that's fatty, like your fish and chips, like your fatty pork belly. You want the acidity in the wine to cut through it. So just a great tip. So this has that generosity, that richness, that roundness from the oak age and the amount of time on the lees, like 5 years, but also it still has that wonderful zingy, zippy, zesty acidity that will help you pair with a bunch of foods.
This is absolutely incredible. I've never heard of it. So as an introduction, thank you very much. I want to get the gauche out of the way. How much is this? How much is this champagne?
This is actually, I would say, for what it's delivering right now, really quite affordable. This is about £70, around 65, £70 a bottle. And it's so, if you've got a wine connoisseur in your life or someone this is a bit of a surprise. You bring along this, they won't possibly have had it before, this particular cuvee. They'll know Billecart-Salmon, but this is original, unique, and delicious aperitif, all with food.
That's or on the back of a boat. I mean,
definitely. I mean, everything's delicious on the back of a boat, darling.
I don't feel we need to.
Not to come across too ab-fab about this, but everything's delicious on the back of a boat.
We need to rule it out, but yeah, I understand the adjectives that you use. They're all, but it's difficult, isn't it, when I'm able to talk about watches and talk about the technicality, the aesthetics, the case size, but it's really difficult when it's so. The way you describe something to me as a novice is really important, and all I can do is either say I disagree, I agree, or yes. And it's such an introduction. I'd never have understood unless I was doing four pairings and tastings as we've done today. I say this morning, it's all right. We are afternoon now in a way to start off the one.
It is a great excuse, I think, to also just try 4 different bottles in a day. I think wine curiosity is important. Trying different things and finding out what you like is important. I found it so fascinating to learn more about watches, and as two products, they combine so well, because it is luxury, absolutely. It's also subjective and what you really enjoy.
Correct. And
it is, both of them are products that most people are using every day.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So enjoy it.
It's and
learn about
and that was just going to say, the education part is the bit that fascinates me, in that there's no surface has been scratched today, let's be honest, in terms of what we've been talking about. And I just came up with this random idea. I wanted to speak to you, like, right, how can I get Libby? I was like, I need to do something fabulous. Right, we need a boat.
Basically,
right, we're gonna
just wanted to hang out on a boat.
Yeah. So
day drinking various amazing sparkling
wines. I think we are, next time we do this, we're going to need a bigger boat. We are going to need a bigger boat. Quick fun fact for you. We unfortunately got to wrap it up, just because
time.
Yeah, yeah. Sadly, when we're on a boat called Time on Our Hands, it seems that we have time on our hands, but we have to wrap it up. I'm gonna not finish this because I have to drive home. However, did you know that it is illegal to maneuver a boat, to drive a boat? Is that the right word? However, there is no measurement of what is drunk when you're driving a boat. So I feel there's a little bit of a loophole here. So I think, I think we finish these, and then we commandeer the boat and the watches, and off we go.
I mean, as a wine professional, I can say don't drink and steer, but yeah, let's do it.
No, but there's loophole. There's a loophole. It's still illegal. It's still illegal.
It's live on a boat.
However, it was a fact that I'd learned. Just in brief, some of the wines you've introduced me to and the champagnes have been incredible. It's an obvious thing for me to say to my wonderful guests, I would definitely try all of these again. You've educated me on all four, and I think there's a different purpose for each of these, because they're not necessarily all everyday drinking, or whether it's a barbecue, that there's a special occasion. I will definitely do some more research, and I think what you have taught me today, Libby, is to be less afraid of being curious and asking questions, and maybe not feeling so inadequate or so dumb and I really appreciate that, because
everyone in wine is learning.
Yeah.
Everyone in wine is changing all the time. I imagine just the same as luxury and watches, there are new innovations all the time. We're all learning and enjoying.
Well, that would be another parallel, in that we are all learning and all developing, but they're fiercely loyal to their own heritage and how champagne is made, or the different, or how the production and the different techniques. So I think there's some wonderful correlations, and as a luxury lifestyle crossover, I've had a passion for watches for a huge amount of time. I've always loved wine, but this has been the best education I've had. So may I thank you so much, Libby Brodie, for joining me today with time on our hands, and I really hope that you'll join me again on this channel.
Another boat.